All right, cool. Joel, thank you very much for doing this. We've just finished off our 4-month-long momentum program. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you got started with lifting.
Feel like I'm put on the spot here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Joel. It's been training now for about a year and a half. Um, Sought out coaching because I was stalling out my deadlifts. I kept hurting my back, and every time I did that, it would send me back, and hated the pain and not progressing in my deadlifts. So I reached out for some help with that, and definitely got it.
Yeah, definitely. It's been quite the progression over the last 4 months. So prior to us working together, what kind of stuff did you try to get your back healthy?
I was seeing a chiropractor. I went to a physiotherapist for some dry needling. I'd roll it out on a foam roller, but nothing seemed to really help except for waiting 3 or 4 weeks in between deadlift sessions for the pain to go away.
Right. And I mean, the catch with that being it's hard to have a good any good amount of progress with a monthly deadlift basically for you.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
and then trying to critique my own technique when I don't know what I'm doing wrong didn't seem to work well either.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely uh, some things to correct when we started. So yeah, I mean, initially when we'd gotten started, we did an audit on your technique. We took a look at your posture and your flexibility as well to get a baseline on kind of where you're at, see what was going on under the hood as well. And what did you find over the course of the 4 months was sort of the most helpful changes that we made to your deadlift to get your back healthy?
Learning how to brace properly was the first thing. And that was huge for deadlifts and squats. And then all the subtle cues that you would teach me, like uh, armpits to the front pockets, and then a little bit later on switched it to pushing my traps in towards my hips. Yeah, I think those helped with the tightness of the throughout the whole lift. Anyway,
Mhm. Agreed.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then on the programming front, we incorporated a few different things, right? Number one was just learning how to properly hinge at your hips and not bend at your lower back, right? So how to set your upper back and your shoulders. Um, and then we'd kind of follow that up down the line with more like slow eccentric deadlifts, or cone deadlifts, and deficit pulls, a couple other more muscular based things as well. But that, and then a pretty good amount of single leg work too, just to build up a lot of the lagging muscle groups. Because unless I'm mistaken, prior to momentum, you hadn't done a ton of single leg stuff, right?
I didn't do any of it. Felt too much like cardio.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, managed to find some ways to sneak it in and kind of get everything working well and in balance. And so at this point, where are you at? What kind of changes did you see in your training, both from a low back health standpoint and in your lifts?
My deadlifts are already much stronger than before I started, and I haven't even tried lifting anything close to my max weights yet. Uh, so that's encouraging. I'm walking out of the sessions with no back pain now, and waking up in the morning still no back pain. So yeah, it's very encouraging, and also the consistency now in between reps that I'm getting. I'm really enjoying that. Because as you said, the wedging, where I wasn't, my hips were ending up at the bottom when I started this, much higher than when I would start the pull. And so now I'd say that they're pretty good. They're
Yeah, it
similar.
looked like
Yeah.
very
Or
similar kind of start stop position.
yeah. Yeah. It just feels so much better.
Mhm. And then you recently PR'd your bench for a double as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's been pretty good and on track for We haven't done it just yet, but on track for a good squat in the next couple of weeks too.
Yes.
So what were, if you were to say maybe your top two takeaways or most helpful things that you had in the momentum program, what were the biggest ones for you?
The biggest one would be the deadlift. Um, yeah, my technique is, I want to say it's fixed.
I
So
think it looked pretty good. Like I'd be very
Yeah.
comfortable with you pulling a PR with what you're doing right now.
Great. Yeah. And so that would be the biggest takeaway for sure. Because, oh, there's some birds fighting out my window. Um, yeah, I mean, who wants to get hurt every time they try to do a deadlift?
Yeah, it can be a frustrating spot to be in for sure, especially when like your squat was generally fine. And your bench, same thing. It was really just the deadlift specifically that was giving you issues. So it's not like your whole training was a dumpster fire either.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the second thing would be the bracing. I didn't know how to brace properly before I started with you. So now everything feels more solid. Bench feels solid. Squats they feel way better, more consistent. That was one thing that you pointed out was that, 'cause I remember one week my RIR dropped by 2 or 3 points between reps one time because my bracing wasn't consistent.
Mhm.
So yeah, the cues that you gave me to work on that, that hasn't happened again.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember you just like locked back in and it got wildly easier throughout the set, which is kind of backwards.
Yeah.
So then I think last thing that I want to go through is let's say somebody was in a similar situation to you. So you were using Jug AI, I believe, at the start, right? And periodization wise, it was going well for you for strength on your bench and your squats, but then deadlifts, as we've discussed, were a bit of an issue. Um, what would you suggest somebody do if they were in a similar situation where they've got this sort of recurring injury from a lift, but their strength on some other lifts is going up, and they might be using somebody else's program or even an algorithm like that?
Hire a coach. Find somebody who can tell you what you're doing wrong and help you fix it. Uh, yeah, it's not necessarily going to be your friend that has been lifting for 3 years that doesn't really know what they're doing, but they think they do because they've been doing it a while. Hire a professional.
Fair enough. Couldn't
Yeah.
have said it better myself. Cool. Well, Joel, thank you so much. And if you're watching this and finding that you're feeling kind of stuck in your training, maybe in a similar situation to Joel, feel free to reach out. You can reach me at matt@strongerupt.com, and I'd love to see if we can help. Thanks. We'll talk soon.